y'all, it's the Black Saiyan Prince, Eli Moore here, and thank y'all for coming back to the video. And today we're gonna be talking about what my favorite game is of all time. No, it's not that Dragon Ball game, it's not an anime game, it's not even WWE or none. It's not none of that. It's not DC, it's not none of that. But what it is it might surprise you. It might surprise you. So stay tuned and let's get right into this video. Life is Strange. Probably, no, most definitely, my favorite game of all time. Not just season 1, not just Before the Storm. Both of them. The thing is, I've never played a game other than Final Fantasy 15. And no, I'm not Square Enix biased, but the company has seemed to produce 2 games that I have truly cared about the characters, honestly. Like, the thing is with Final Fantasy 15, before I get into Life is Strange, real quick, Noctis Lucis Callium, I was able to identify with him and able to really I really care for him, you know, care for, you know, Ignis, and care for Gladius, and care for Prompto. People, like, I was able to care for those characters because of the way that they were executed and presented in the game. And this is for darn sure in Life is Strange, because the thing is, in season 1, and this is how this breakdown will go down. I'm talking about the characters, I'm talking about the story, I'm gonna talk about environment for both games. But for season 1, I'm gonna talk about the powers, and Before the Storm, I'm gonna talk about Rachel. So for the characters in season 1, we're introduced to Max Caulfield, we're introduced to Chloe Price, we're introduced to Mark Jefferson, Nathan Prescott, Kate Marsh, you know, David Madsen, and Joyce, who is Chloe's mother, biological mother. So the game takes place 5 years after the prequel, which is Before the Storm. And so you don't know much about the characters starting off, which is why Before the Storm was made after this. But you don't know much about these characters starting off. But for me, I was able to identify with the main character, Max Caulfield, immediately. Reason being, she, after waking up from this vision, which I will talk about later on, she automatically just puts in earphones when the class is over. And she starts to soundtrack her life, which is something that I do on the regular basis. Like when I'm at school, when I'm at home, when I'm playing basketball, when I'm on the computer, when I'm just doing anything, I always have an earphone. Like, majority of the time, I always have an earphone. And why? Is because music is just able to really just help me just do things, you know? And that's why I was really able to identify with Max so quickly, because of the fact that she does something that I do on the regular basis, and that's soundtrack her life. Which is something that I thought was pretty freaking cool, that I was already able to identify with the character. So then you also have her best friend. Well, in the first episode, she's almost like her ex-best friend, but they're still trying to feel each other out because it's been 5 years since they talked. Chloe Price. And Chloe Price has had a troubled past. And when I mean troubled, I mean like a troubled past, dog. Like, it is some serious stuff that happened in her past. I won't go into too much detail, but I will tell you the basis of what everything happened. So, her father dies in a car crash. That's the first thing that happens. That's the first thing that happens to her. Then, not too long after, her best friend leaves with her family to Seattle. That's the second thing that happens, right? The third thing that happens is she falls in love with this girl named Rachel Amber. And Rachel Amber, I'm still kind of figuring out if she really loved her back. But they were pretty much a lesbian couple, and all of a sudden Rachel just vanishes. And then Chloe is left just alone again. And then here's another thing. Her mother ends up marrying this guy that Chloe cannot stand, like, at all. Because at the beginning of the game, he's rude to Chloe and Chloe's rude to him. So it's almost like a back and forth thing, and they're not really too keen on each other. So that's 4 major things that happened to Chloe that's kind of pushed her over the deep end, you know? And she feels like that the world is just out to get her. And then, I mean, at this moment in her life, I would understand why. Because you have all these things happen to you that you cannot help. There's not much you can do. And then, so Max comes back, and things are sort of awkward. You know, things are sort of awkward, which is reasonable, between Chloe and Max. And you understand that the reason why this was is because Max dipped on Chloe for 5 years without saying jack nothing. So, I mean, you don't really feel like Chloe should have done. You feel like Chloe, the things that happened to Chloe shouldn't really have happened, because it's kind of unfair, because you see that in both games, Chloe really hasn't done much of anything to really deserve this. So, you know, that's kind of the thing that I felt like was kind of like, wow, that's horrible. So, I mean, at first though, despite all that, when I first played this game 3 years ago, I could not stand her character. Because I didn't really take those things into consideration at the time, because I didn't know. You know, in the first episode, you don't fully get to find out all this yet until like episode 2 and towards the end of episode 1. But immediately, I felt like I could not stand her, because I felt like she was just in this victim mode of sorts, you know, kind of taking everything out in the world, which I felt like wasn't necessarily fair to Max, because this girl had just come back, you know. She was kind of hanging out with her best friend, and all of a sudden her best friend is just, you know, just railing on her, talking about, you didn't talk to me for 5 years, you know, this happened to me, that happened to me. I kind of felt like, come on, man. I personally know people. I have people who I know on a personal level who are constantly victim, who kind of act like this. So I know if I couldn't, you know, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't end up liking this character. But boy, was I wrong. You know, as the game goes on, Chloe Price is honestly my favorite character throughout this game. It's a toss-up between Max and Chloe, but I like Chloe because of her fearlessness. Her fearlessness sometimes leads to some stupidity, which that kind of happens in episode 3, but you know, that's kind of why I really like her. She's fearless, you know, she puts other people first, especially Max. She slowly starts to put other people first, you know. She actually lays down her life for Max in the last episode. In the finale, they lay down her life for each other, to be honest with you, throughout the entire game. So that's kind of what I like about Life is Strange Season 1. You really are able to identify with characters in some way, shape, or form. Every single one, really. You're able to identify with them in every single one in some way, shape, or form. The story, too, is amazing. You know, this is a beautifully dark game. Both of them are, you know, but this game in particular versus the second one, this game talks about things that are a little bit more serious, you know. This game talks about, you know, perversion and obsession and, you know, coming to an understanding of your sexuality and who you are, you know, family abandonment, hatred and drug use and teen pregnancy, things like that are severely prominent in this game, and you are clear that this is what this game talks about. It talks about some pretty heavy stuff, and some pretty heavy stuff happens in this game as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil it, just in case you guys want to play it, because I definitely recommend this game. But they talk about some pretty hefty stuff in this game, you know. And then also what I really like about this game is the environment, you know. The environment and what's in it feels like it's its own character, you know. Every different environment in this game feels like it has its own persona. It feels like it's important in some way, shape, or form. A good example of that is a blue butterfly. The blue butterfly in this game is very important. Very important. The blue butterfly in this game, the lighthouse in this game, and the beach in this game are 3 of the most important things in this entire game. And I'm not over exaggerating. Those are 3 most important things in this entire game, you know? So things like that is why I really enjoyed Season 1, you know? You have all these things happening, you know, and you also have Max's diary. which also plays a big role in the game, and her camera, because she's a photographer. So the camera plays a big role. The camera, not just for her, it plays a role for multiple characters like Mark Jefferson. He's a special kind of dude. So and not in a good way. He's a special kind of dude. So he's different. You know, he's real different. The camera's pretty important. That's what I like about this game though. The littlest things can sometimes mean the most in the game, you know? And that's what I really like. And that leads me to my last point about season 1. And that's Max's powers. We don't ever find out where her powers come from. Let me get that right off, because many of you could be wondering, probably when playing this game, where do her powers come from? You don't ever find out. You don't find out in each 5 episodes, and I guess that's my minor issue with this game. You don't ever find out where her powers come from. And that's kind of leaves you in mystery, and I guess it kind of leads for speculation for fans to build theories and things like that, but you don't ever find out. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing either, because the game just ends and you don't know. I mean, but that's what I kind of like though about her powers. Her powers aren't overdone. Like, this isn't one of those Supernatural where my powers will save they do save the world, more or less, but they're not overdone. It doesn't feel like a superhero game. You know, it feels like a game where you have 2 people who are trying to find out what their purpose in the world is and try to bring goodness to a town that's pretty much corrupted. So her powers aren't overdone. They're due to a part where you're able to make impressions on people. You're able to rewind time and make impressions on people and do things either out of the goodness of your heart or do things that aren't as nice. You know, that choice is truly up to the player. So for me though, since, you know, I like helping people, I tried to help as many people as I could, leave good impressions, which is something that I really like that they added in this game. So that's pretty much season 1. Season 1 is a very, very good game, and that's why I'm really appreciative of how this game was made. Which leads me into Before the Storm. Before the Storm is a game that takes place 3 years prior to season 1. You know, it's 3 years prior to the events of season 1, but 2 years, right? Yeah, 2 years after Chloe's dad died. You know, so Max is gone. Chloe's dad's dead, and she doesn't have anybody right now. Like, she legitimately doesn't. You playing with an angry Chloe. Like, the game starts off, she's angry. You know, the game starts off with her on the train tracks, you know, smoking a cigarette, and it's her in a black hoodie. And she's very punk rock. In both games, she's very punk rock. But this game, you can kind of see where that really came from. So she's pretty angry in this game, and I was like, okay, you know, because she pops off the handle quickly in this game. She really truly feels like everything is out to get her in Before the Storm. And you're playing with Chloe this time. Max is not involved whatsoever in this game. Like, she has like minor appearances. Like, you see that Chloe's journal is basically all written to Max, which I thought was kind of cool, you know. And you see checking her phone, and she has some text with Max. You know, Max doesn't really hit back because, like I said, she has text for 5 years almost. So she is just trying to come to a realization of who she is in this game. You know, this game though deals with social issues, but not at such a major level that the first one did. This game in particular deals with lying, you know, and family values and sexuality, and both games deal with that, but this game in particular deals with it more at a serious tone. You know, it deals with a girl who's still trying to figure out what her sexuality preference is. Is it guys? Is it girls? Is it both? You know? So I like that about this game, because it deals with things that teens have to deal with on a regular basis. You know, and me being a teenager, me being in high school, I see these things happening. So it's nice playing a game where I can almost control how I want the world around me to be, which is pretty nice. And the same thing with this game, the environment is very important. Not as important as the first game, but still very important, because the animal that signifies, well, that represents Chloe in this game as a raven, which I thought was kind of cool. You know, the raven represents Chloe, while in the first game, a doe represented Max or Rachel. I mean, it could have gone either way. So this game, though, it's good. It really is good, but it's, to me, not as good as the first season. I guess because the stakes were so high in the first season that you're playing the prequel now, and it's almost like, you know, it's kind of like going backwards. I feel like they should have made this game, though, first before they made season 1. I feel like that would have made more sense, but that's just me. And this leads me into my final point of this breakdown of the franchise. Rachel Amber is prominent and very important in both games. She's very important in both games. Like she is what keeps these characters driving forward in the first game. Between her and Kate Marsh, but mainly Rachel. And I can understand why, because Rachel literally was the person that Chloe almost died for. She almost died for Rachel Amber. Mind you, this is a girl she met 3 days ago. Okay? The game, right, 3 days ago or 4 days ago, something like that. The game takes place, I think, Before the Storm takes place in almost the same format as the first game did. Because the first game takes place in an event of 5 days. Sunday through Friday. Well, Monday through Friday. What am I talking about? Monday through Friday. I cannot count my days. Okay, and Before the Storm, I think that takes place in 3 days. But this is one part in the second episode where it almost breaks up into 2 days, I think. I don't know. Something like that. But, yeah, it takes place in almost, I'll say a week and a half, 2 weeks almost. And quickly, Chloe falls in love with Rachel. And I don't know if it's real or not on Rachel's end. Because Rachel, in season 1, you come to know that she was a liar. She was somebody who would do what she wanted to get what she wanted, you know? And because all over Arcadia Bay, you see things like Rachel is a whore, Rachel owes me money, and some sexual things about Rachel, which I'm not going to say, but some not so nice things about Rachel. And I'm just kind of like, all right, bet. So you don't really know. I don't personally like Rachel too much because she looks like she's just acting, you know, to get Chloe to kind of do what she wants. But she says Chloe's the only person that she can trust. So I guess it's real. I don't know. Because at the same time in episode 2, you have an option to get them to kiss. Which, I mean, I don't know if she felt like it was... I don't know. I'm sort of riding the fence with Rachel. I mean, she's cool. But she's crazy at the same time. Because episode 1, she burns down a forest. And I'm not gonna say why, but she burns down a forest. So the girl, I'm not sure about too much. I'm still trying to. I'll probably understand it later on. But as of right now, I'm not too sure how I feel about Rachel. But that wraps up my Life is Strange breakdown and why I like this game so much. You know. Let me know what you guys' favorite game is in the comment section below. You know, sound off. Let me know if you guys will ever play Life is Strange. You know, let me know what your preference is game is. Let me know what your favorite game from Square Enix is. If you've played any, is it Final Fantasy? You know, things like that. You know, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and don't forget to always come back for more.